Thanks for watching Lessons in Minutes with Jaylee. Like, share, and don't forget to subscribe.
A non-trading organization is mainly concerned with? That question has been on the screen for a while, so I'm sure you have the response for that. Who wants to take that shot for the response?
Miss D.
Marshall?
The answer is D, dog.
D.
D, miss.
E as in dog. Excellent. D as in dog. Good. So that's the response. All right. The term accounting refers to? The term accounting refers to? Is someone saying C? Yes, and you're indeed correct. The recording, analyzing, and interpreting of business information. Okay? Now, moving into 3. What they normally do is start you from the lower end, and then they'll take you further into your knowledge of accounting. So you find that they begin with the earlier topics. Rent expense, which is still owing at the end of the period, must be debited to the profit and loss account and shown in the balance sheet as a liability. Which accounting concept does this represent? Ricard?
Accrual.
Or Richard? Richard? That's the accrual. Lovely, lovely. You people are ready for exam. Here we go. During the year, a company bought stationery for $220. So the total spent on stationery for the year is $220 and used $120 worth of it. What figure would be posted to the profit and loss account to represent the expenditure for the year? What figure are we going to put in the profit and loss account to represent the expenditure?
120.
Okay, I see the information coming up there saying B. B is accurate. Why? Can someone explain that? Let me see the and. Someone explain that, please. No one wants to explain why it is B? Or you want me to get down into it? If you don't understand why it is B, raise your hand, please.
Miss, can explain once.
Explain it. All right,
Yes.
so here we go. Because they're applying the accrual concept in preparing your financial statement, right? You need to show the amount relating to the period. And what you show in your profit and loss account is the amount that is actually used up for the period. And this is why we don't use the 220. If we use the 220, we're basically looking at the cash concept. So we have something referred to as the accrual concept of accounting, and we have the cash concept of accounting. The accrual concept is what we employed, meaning we account for what we have received in expenditure for the period, or what we have paid out in expenses for the period, or what we have not paid out. I use incurred instead. So what we have generated for revenues for the period and what we have incurred for expenses for the period, that is what we show. Whether or not we have paid for it or we are owing for it. Okay?
Yes,
Statement. Additional information, you add accruals and you less prepayments because we want to show the amount relating to this period on. So hence the reason 120 is the answer. Okay? Good, good? I like to get feedback. Yes, I'm like that. All right. Now, Item 5 refers to the following balances at the end of the financial period. And remember, you need, yes? Go ahead, please. Confirm if you're hearing me clearly, please. Huh?
Yes, Miss.
Yes, Miss.
Okay. Oh, good. So you're advised to read through your questions and analyze them carefully before you respond to any question, especially when you're doing multiple choice, because there are usually two items that are close to each other, where you need to analyze and select the best one. So here we go. Item 5 refers to the following balances at the end of a financial period. What is the total amount for assets? So from the list of items, what is the total amount for assets? What are the assets that we have? We have motor vehicle, we have receivables, and we have building. So therefore, our total is C. That's the information coming up there in the chat. Lovely. Remember, what is the difference between receivables and payables? What's the difference? These are two things that you know clearly, but persons tend to mix them up. Yes, Shanice?
Mr. Receivables are like persons. Sorry. You can go ahead.
Go ahead.
Payables is a liability. Current liability.
Yes, payables is a liability. Sure, definitely. What's the other term for the payables though?
Creditors.
I see someone put it in the chat there.
Creditors.
Payables represent creditors. That's the alternative term for creditors, and receivables, debtors. Yes, payables is creditors. Lovely. Lovely. Next, which of the following list of current assets is managed in order of liquidity? When we say order of, you know, you're looking out for the item that is the most liquid asset. Which one is the most liquid?
The cash.
Asset is the most liquid.
Cash. Hello?
All right, so I see the response coming up for the question, which is B.
Yes.
Bear in mind that our most liquid asset is cash. All right, so it therefore means that we're looking for one that begins with cash, and that is the only one that starts with cash. Again? All right, so let's continue. Number 7. Number 7, the summarized position of Foster and Scott Limited at March 6, 2015 was the year presented with current liabilities, current assets, non-current assets, and non-current liabilities. What is non-current assets?
Fixed assets.
Fixed assets.
Fixed assets. Lovely, fixed assets. So we're presented with 4 items, and then we're asked, what was the capital of Foster and Scott Limited at March 6, 2015? What concept are we going to use to respond to this? What is the concept that we're going to use? Lovely Letitia. We're going to use assets minus liabilities equal capital, which is the accounting equation. And the other term for the accounting equation is the balance sheet equation. So based on that, our response is B. our total assets, which are the current assets and the non-current assets, that is 300. And our total liabilities is the 60 plus the 150, which give us 210. The 300 minus 210 leave us with 90,000, which is our capital. Okay, so here we go. My co-host, remember to check the waiting room for me, please, and admit the individuals as they come. So we're now at number 8. And number 8 reads, a calculation to determine gross profit percentage is as follows. Can that person mute for me, please? Thank you. And we have 185,530. $185,530 divided by 529,800 times 100. So basically, we have the gross profit percentage right here. And you're asked to tell the examiners what the 529,800 represents. For you to know what this represents, you need to know your gross profit percentage formula. What is it? To find gross profit percentage, what's the formula?
Gross profit over total sales.
Lovely. Gross profit over total sales times 100. And the response is A, which is total sales. Because the 185,530 represents your gross profit, 529,800 represents your total sales. And here we go. The persons in the chat doing well there with the responses. Number 9. The following assets were found on the statement of financial position of a retailer. What would be the best order if these assets were arranged in the order of permanence? Remember, we did order of liquidity earlier. We're going to look at the order of permanence. And remember, it's a flip of the liquidity. So we're starting with the item that would stay in the most permanent item down to the least, which would have been the most liquid asset. So here we go. Based on the question, we know that B and C cannot be the response because it starts with cash. Cash is the most liquid asset. We cannot start with that. So it has to be between A and D. And based on that, our response is D. So yes. Number 10, which of the following items would not appear in a cash book? Which of the following items would not appear in a cash book? Remember, this is the book of original entry related question, right? And how many books of original entry do we have? Just a quick refresher of your knowledge there. How many books of original entry? How many books of original entry, people? Not 6, not 6, not 6.
It's 7.
What's the response? 7. That's it. John and Kiana Webley there with the response. There are 7 books of original entry. 7. Lovely. So cash book is one of them, and the cash book is used to record what? So you have to know what is the purpose of the cash book to respond to this question. What's the purpose of the cash book?
Receipts and payments.
It is used to record receipts and payments. Excellent. So we're looking for the one that would not be recorded in the cash book, and the not there is in cap. So therefore, would we say payment for goods would go in the cash book? We made a payment. Would that go in the cash book? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Good. Goods sold on credit. Goods sold on credit.
No, miss.
No, because guess what? No payment was made, or there wasn't any receipt because the goods were sold. It means that the person trusts in the goods. They're saying, hey, I won't be able to pay you now. I pay at a later date. So unless the payment is received, or the payment was made, then of course you would say that that would go in the cash book. Because this wasn't done, definitely our response is B, because we were looking for the item that would not be recorded in the cash book. All right, so next question, number 11. In a cooperative society, the daily affairs are administered by, and remember, the cooperative society is similar to the company. It is not much different. So once you know to do your company account, they can do your cooperative society account. Okay? Because remember, the difference lies when you're doing your appropriation account and when you go over to your balance sheet looking at your equity section. So here we go. The response is D. I saw some persons with that response in the chat, because the affairs of the daily affairs, the daily running of the business, the shareholders just buy shares in the business. They're just members of the cooperative, right? But shareholders wouldn't have time to go into the business and to run the business. And can you imagine your cooperative society has several persons that can be members, shareholders, right? So there would be chaos for you to have all your shareholders running the business. There must be someone or some persons that are elected to run the operations of the business, and your response is D. And we're going to move on to 12, credit note. Credit note is a source document, and they're asking if you issue the credit note for goods returned by a customer, where would it be recorded first? All right, and I'm seeing the response there, A. So credit notes are recorded, that once you issue the credit note, it's recorded in your return inward book. But there could be a case where the examiners could have asked you, credit notes received for goods returned. Where would you record that? Which response would have been the best one there? If credit notes were received. Good. The response there would be B. So you have to read your questions carefully, because they could have started the question with credit notes and you're going to say, oh, I see books of original entry, so the answer is A. When in fact they're asking you if you received the credit note. So that is why you have to read your questions carefully. So good going there. Number 13, Miss, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but a grocer bought a computer on credit from TAN Company, and they're asking you, or would this be recorded in the buyer's book? Or would it be recorded in the buyer's book? It means that your business, the business, look at it as your business. If you buy the computer on credit from TAN Company, which account are you going to debit and which one you're going to credit? And remember, the journal is simply saying which account you're debiting, which account you're crediting for the transaction. So sometimes we as candidates, we look at it and say the journal, and you feel confused because you're wondering what is the concept that you're testing with the journal. The thing that the journal is testing is if you know which account you're going to debit and which one you're going to credit. That's the general journal. And the response there, the computer account would be debited and TAN Company credited. The acid test ratio, you need to know the purpose of it, and this is what they're asking you. Why calculate the acid test ratio? Why is it that a business calculates the acid test ratio, or why is it that users of accounting information calculate acid test ratio? And what is it that they need to know? They're trying to find out if you have enough current assets, less the stock, which is the inventory, to cover your current liabilities. And the persons that have been indicating A, you are accurate. The asset test ratio, which category of assets, not assets, which category of the ratio would you align asset test ratio with? What type of ratio? Liquidity. Excellent there, Miss Smith. Give me another type of liquidity ratio. Which other ratio could fit under liquidity? Current ratio, excellent there. All right. Name two other categories of ratio. Two other categories of ratio. Profitability, excellent. Profitability, waiting on the other one. Activity, all right. You can refer also have the efficiency ratio, looking at your stock turnover, etc. All right. So good going. You know the categories. So here we go. Let's move into the other question, which is number 15. Which of the following accounts is not nominal? Before we respond to this question, what are types of accounts that we have? Types of accounts. So nominal is one there. Which other two? Yes, real. Lovely. What else? Yes, and the personal ones. The personal ones, which have been your creditors and your
Debtors.
debtors. All right. So A is a response. Yes. So A is a response because furniture. A is a response there because furniture is a real account. When we say real, what are we looking at? Assets, lovely, Tanika. Good dear Smith. All right. When we say personal, remember those are your debtors and your creditors. If that's a personal account, then of course, it would not be listed under personal. So it has to bear someone's name, a debtor, creditor. All right. The nominal ones would be the others outside of your real and your personal. So if it is not real and if it is not personal, then of course that is nominal. So the other things, your expenses, your revenues, etc., those are nominal. Number 16. Which of the following accounts are usually transferred to trading and profit and loss account? All they're asking you, what are the accounts that we use in our trading and profit and loss account? And the response there is C. Great, Simpson. Senior response there, Samuel. Okay, good. So the response there is C. Which of the following items is a capital expenditure? Before we look at the response, tell me another type of expenditure. We have two categories.
Revenue expenditure.
Two categories of expenditure. All right, lovely. So we have revenue expenditure and we have capital expenditure. What is the difference between the two?
Capital expenditure is when you buy a fixed asset, while the revenue expenditure is ongoing, like every month, like your rent or you pay for something, can't pay wages then. Something like wages. I think that's your revenue expenditure. Yeah.
Good. So you have the concept. So revenue expenditure is looking at the expenses that you incur in order to run the business. So what you incur for the regular operation of the business, such as your electricity, your light, your water bill, telephone charges, internet, bank charges. So those things would be revenue expenditure. So even though it's a revenue, it doesn't mean that you're going to say it is a revenue that you receive. No, it is those expenses that you incur, those costs that you incur to run the business. All right. The capital expenditure now is looking at purchase of fixed assets or any addition to the fixed assets. Okay. So our response, capital expenditure there would be D. D as in dog. 18. In order to avoid writing numerous checks for small amounts, a firm may set up a, and this is testing your books of original entry knowledge again, what would they set up? All right, B is the response. Lovely. Next. And this question is a little long. You have to read through the questions carefully before you respond. So again, read your questions carefully before you respond. And we begin. Mrs. Abel and Mrs. Blue purchased goods on credit valued at $50 and $75 respectively from Mr. Kane. So what they're saying is that Mr. Kane sold goods valued at $50 and $75. Another customer paid Mr. Kane cash for goods amounting to $550. So Mr. Kane sells some more goods, and that is valued at $550. Mr. Kane took goods at cost for himself amounting to $500. So this was taken from the business for personal use. And once you take something from the business for personal use, what is that?
Drawings.
Once you take,
Drawings.
lovely, that is drawings, excellent, drawings. Now, this is the question. Which of the following figures represent the total in Mr. Kane's sales account? So we want to know, what is the value of the sales made by Mr. Kane? And the response of 675 is accurate for the persons that have C in the chat right there. So therefore, the response is C. It would not have been the 1175. Why? Because this 500 represents drawings.
Drawings.
Yes, good. So we're looking at the value of what Mr. Kane sold, and that is the 50 plus the 75, which is 125, plus the 550, and that gives us $675. Number 20. Mr. Ram, a shoemaker, bought a motor van for $11,000 cash. In recording this transaction, he should, so the $11,000 was used to purchase a motor van. How is it that you're going to record this in the accounting book? So I'm seeing the response A,
Debit
debit
motor vehicle account.
debit
and
motor
credit
van.
the cash.
and credit the cash. Good. And we would not use purchases. Why? Why couldn't it have been C? Why wouldn't we use C as a response?
Because you can't have a purchases account.
Pardon?
Means it says cash and you can't really like have a purchases account there.
I'd rather something more
The two
Yes,
accounts
Mr.
are
President,
mentioned in the question.
all right.
Next purchases are for goods for resale.
As Latisha saying, wait, we're having a confusion. Wait, we have a confusion right there. Too many persons
Isn't
unmuting
that
and responding
purchases
at
are for
once.
goods for resale?
All right. So, thanks for the participation, but we can't have too many persons responding at once. There's so many persons in the room. Let me take it there from the chat. Remember, you can use the raise hand feature. Once you raise your hand, I'll see the notification. So I'm seeing where that because they tell you which asset is bought, we use purchases for an asset as well. All right. So the response that I am going to take from the chat there is the fact that it did not say that we purchase goods. We use the purchases account when goods are purchased, when the business buys something for resale. The motor van that was purchased, there wasn't any indication that this was purchased for resale. So therefore, we would record that in the motor van account, the asset account. Now, the person that said that, because it is, they give you the specific asset. Bear in mind that goods, inventory is an asset. So we could say the transaction could read, bought goods, paying for cash. Would we say that we'd open a goods account? We would not open a goods account. What we would do is to, because we have purchased goods, we purchased something for resale, we want to classify it because at the end of the period, we want to know how much did we spend on purchasing goods for resale. So that is why you have the accounts the goods split into purchases, sales, return ins and return inwards and returns outwards. So you have to know to analyze it. All right. And oftentimes you know, but then when it comes on to explain yourself at times, you find it difficult. So it is because we did not purchase goods, the motor van for resale. That is why we did not use C as the response. 21. In Mrs. Lowe's ledger, an entry of the debit side of the drawings account and an entry on the credit side of the bank account means, so they're saying for a transaction, the drawings account was debited and the bank account was credited. Why would we end up debiting the drawings account and credit the bank account? Why? Yes, Shanice?
It's because money is coming out of the bank account.
For personal use. Don't forget that. Lovely. Don't forget the personal use. So the response is D. Mrs. Lowe uses money from her business account for her personal use. Lovely. Number 22. So number 22 reads, K. Khan, a debtor of A and B Enterprises, settles his debt of 120 less 2.5% discount by check. How should the double entry be recorded in the books of A and B Enterprises? So K. Khan is paying A and B Enterprises what is owing of 120, right? But there's a discount of 2.5%. And you're asked to show how it would be recorded in A and B accounting record. So if the debtor is paying, it means that A and B is receiving. So therefore, the response, let me check the chat right there. So we're going to debit bank of $117. We're going to debit discount allowed of $3, or we got the discount is 2.5% of the $120. And we're going to credit K-Con 120. So therefore the response there is C. Number 23, the formula for calculating working capital. How do we calculate working capital?
Current assets less current liability.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Current.
So that is current assets less current liabilities. Brilliant. Number 24 refers to the following statement of financial position. What's the other term for statement of financial position?
Balance sheet.
Balance sheet. Good. So you're presented with a balance sheet and they're asking you what is the total amount for non-current assets. We mentioned that earlier. What is non-current assets?
Fixed assets.
Fixed assets. So we're looking for all the fixed assets starting from the top. Which one is first?
Land and building.
Land and building, good. What else can you pick up? Motor van, good.
Fixtures and fittings.
Excellent. And do we have any more?
No.
No. So our response there is
B.
14,600.
14,600. Excellent. Hope I'm not going too fast for anyone.
Wait, what was the answer for 24?
The answer for 24 was 14,600. C. Number 25. Item 25 refers to the following data which are taken from the records of a hardware store at the end of its fiscal year. What is the gross profit of the hardware store? Bear in mind, people, when you're going to your accounting paper 1 exam, you can use calculator. Okay? So walk with your calculator when you're going to your exam. Now, you need to calculate gross profit. How do we go about calculating gross profit? How do we calculate gross profit? I'm not seeing any hand raised. No hand is going up. Says less cost of goods sold. Lovely. Seeing it there in the chat. Says less cost of goods sold. And if there is return inward, we would have net sales. So therefore, we can say net sales less cost of goods sold. So we have sales. We have sales returns. Remember, sales returns the same thing as return inward. We have inventory at start. We have inventory at close. And we have purchases and we have purchases returned. So I'm giving you a little time there to calculate that. Should have it by now. If your response is B, you are accurate. And I see some persons in the chat saying B. Lovely. Is there anyone who wants to query that? Number 26 refers to the following information supplied by a sole trader. And there, you are asked to calculate the net profit percentage. What is the formula in calculating net profit percentage?
Gross profit minus total expenses.
To find the net profit percentage,
Oh, no.
I'm seeing net profit divided by sales times 100. So, what is your response? Round off to the nearest whole number. That's
22%.
multiple. I think some responses there. So guess what? The first thing we have to calculate is what is net profit. And based on calculating net profit, we have gross profit of 12,000. So that is 12,000. We have expenses. So we have to minus the 3,000. We also have another expense of 4,000, which is the discount allowed. And we have discount received. So we need to add that 2,000. What do you get? What is the amount you get?
7,000.
7,000.
7,000.
All right. So now that you have the 7,000, you can then determine your net profit percentage because we have our net profit value, and we're seeing that our net sales is 30,000. So 7,000 divided by 30,000 times 100, what do you get?
30,000 times 100. Oh Lord. Oh dear, I pressed a while ago. Oh cockroach. Please
23.
That is, I'm seeing C, I'm seeing A. So I'll be confirming. All right. So the
the
response is
23.3%.
the 23.3, and we're going to round off the nearest whole number. So our response will be
C.
C. Good.
Jeez, Beryl.
That is C. All right. So moving on to question 27. Refers to the following balances at the end of a financial period. These were from the books of J. Sammy, a sole trader. The current ratio of the business rounded to the nearest, rounded to 2 decimal places is, so we're calculating the current ratio. What's the formula in calculating? I see Letitia fingers are working so fast. Current assets divided by current liabilities. And based on that, let me annotate again. So first we're going to calculate our current assets. So the first one there that we're picking up is the inventory of 1,100. To that, we're going to add our receivables of 500. We're going to add cash of 200. And to that, no, I'm not seeing any more. So our total current asset is equal to
1,800.
Good, 1,800. Lovely. And now we're going to remember that is current asset. We're going to calculate our current liabilities now. And we have bank overdraft. Don't forget, bank overdraft is a current liability. It is not an asset. Carries a credit balance there if you're doing a trial balance. Payables, which would be our creditors. We have looked at that earlier. That's 700. And is there any more? No. So we have 1,100 for our current liabilities. That is 1,800 divided by 1,100. And our response is 1.636. So what is the answer?
1.64.
1.64. So we add that one because the number that comes after the 3 is greater than 5. Number 28. On January 1st, 2016, 10,000 was paid towards an advertising campaign. Of this amount, 7,000 was used by 31st of December 2016. What was the amount of advertising prepaid at the end of the year?
3,000.
3,000, the amount that is not yet used up. Lovely. The 7,000, if they had asked you what is the amount to be recorded in the profit and loss account for the year, you would have used the 7,000 because you would show the amount that was used up for the year. So if it's not used up, it means that it will roll over to the next financial year. So therefore, that 3,000 is what is prepaid. Depreciation is accounting term in accounting terms can be defined as money saved to replace an asset, increase in the value of asset, remember depreciation decreases, cost of using a fixed asset for an accounting period, straight line method or reducing balance method used by a business. This is C. They have to learn to eliminate. So which of the following accounts would depreciation of machines be transferred? So you're depreciating the machine. Where can you show this? You're trading? No. Appropriation? No. Manufacturing? The response is D, because depreciation is an expense. The amount charged for depreciation for the year on the fixed asset, meaning the value at which the fixed asset loses for that financial year, that would go to the profit and loss account as an expense. That is why D is your answer.
Like, share, and don't forget to subscribe.